Have a quorum.
I'll do the roll call real quickly.
Okay.
Mr. Brennan,
Present.
Ms. Terracio,
Here.
Ms. Dickerson,
Here.
Mr. Burgess,
Here.
Ms. Gleason. I see you, Ms. Gleason.
Tragan.
Here.
Thank you. Representative Howard,
He will be joining us a little later.
okay. Chairman Huggins,
Here.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Mood,
Here.
Dr. Morris,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum. And for the record, I would like to do a roll call for the advisory members. Mr. Jenkins,
Here.
Ms. Summers,
I'm here.
Mr. Green,
I'm here.
Ms. Robinson, Ms. Robinson, Mr. Unthank,
I'm here.
Mr. Coon,
Present.
Mayor Walker, and Mr. Kane. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may proceed.
Motion to adopt the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in
Mr.
favor?
Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, before we move to adopt the agenda, I would like to move that after we have a call to the public, that we go into executive session item.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to second that motion.
I am inclined, I have spoken with Representative Howard, and he wants to be part of the executive session, and he knows about the current agenda. And I would like to try to stay with the same agenda because he wants to be part of the executive session, and he's across the street at the State House. And as soon as I call him up, he'll come over. But right now, I would like to move forward with the current agenda. Did you hear me, Mr. Fergus? Mr. Fergus?
Mr. Burgess, you're on mute.
Oh, no, I'm not on mute, but let's have a vote on that.
Okay, let's do a roll call on the vote. They're asking to go directly into executive session.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Representative Howard just walked in. So if we want to go ahead and move forward with the executive session, that is fine. Let's go ahead and do a motion to move executive session up, please. Is there a motion, Mr. Burgess?
Mr. Burgess, you're on mute, sir.
Mr. Chair, Morris.
Yes, sir.
He made a motion and I second it.
Okay, very good. The motion is already, so let's do a roll call, Ms. Reed.
And that,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, to clarify, was that to move it to after the public input?
Yes.
Thank you.
And just to clarify procedurally, this is a substitute motion, correct?
A motion to amend the agenda.
Yes.
We had a motion, we already had a motion to adopt it as written and a second on the floor. So I just want to make sure procedurally we're correct.
I will withdraw my motion to adopt the agenda and move forward with Mr. Fergus and Dr. Morris second. Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio,
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson, Ms. Dickerson, Mr. Ferguson,
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Gleason,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Chairman Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Very good. That brings us to item number 3. Is there any representative, Mr. Ando, with the Midlands Transit Association?
I do not see it.
We do not see any.
Okay, very good. That brings us to item number 4, call to the public. Any people wanting to speak to the board? Mr. Ando?
Do not have any.
Okay, very good. That brings us to executive session. I am going to ask all individuals to exit the call that are not board and advisory members. And I'm going to ask Mr. Ando only to stay in executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I can move all the board members to the room to another room for executive session through this Zoom call.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
We need a
Yes, sir.
motion to go into executive session.
Let's make a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. All in favor? Call the roll, Ms. Reed.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio,
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Chairman Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna give Ms. Reed enough time to set up, and Mr. Ando, would you please let me know when we're ready to move forward with the executive session, please?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to go into open session?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Howard. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there were no motions in the open, in closed session, executive session, but for just for clarity, I'm going to ask Miss Baker to read the motion in my presence for me, please.
So the motion would state that the board accepts the common employee's letter as an appeal to the board because the executive director and Mr. Deschamps were directly involved in the grievance, and offer the employee the choice to be reinstated or grant her requested severance immediately, effective immediately, but with the option to negotiate with counsel.
Very good. All right, that's my motion. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Howard. All right, any other more discussion before we take the vote? Ms. Reed, please call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio, Ms. Tracio, Ms. Dickerson, Ms. Dickerson, Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Chairman Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
His motion carries, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for the board. We will be working with staff and the employee and council to make sure we'll get some movement on this issue. Okay, at this time, we are running really, really long. So I want to make a motion to amend the agenda to defer some items. It may take me a little bit of time to write the items down, but as we go through, Mr. Ando, I know there's certain things that are pertinent that we have to get done today, but all other things that are not pertinent, I want you to defer to the next meeting. So with that being said, I need Mr. Smith and Ms. Mood and Mr. Ando to help me form a motion of what items we need to add to the need to defer or I'll keep on the agenda. Please.
Mr. Chairman, if we could approve the consent calendar, that would cover a number of items just with one action.
Okay, all right. Mr. Smith, do you want to pull, you had wanted to pull the item B out of the consent calendar and put it in a discussion item? Is that still the case for you?
That's right. And the only reason, it's not because I necessarily want to defer it or anything like that. It's that the information in the packet is not as thorough as what I think is necessary so that the board's action is not clear because the documentation in the packet's not clear. So I thought that it would be best to pull that out and address it separately.
Okay, very good. That's noted. All right, on action item C, 6, we will not go into reimagine the comment today. We will go into intermodal committee budget question from Mr. Smith, and also item number C under number 7. Mr. Andrew, I don't believe we have any motions on number 7, do we?
We do not.
Okay, I am going to, unless there's something that my committee members need on the progress reports, I am going to defer that. Is that okay with you, Ms. Mood?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Smith, is that okay with you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion on this award and contract for construction. I'm on the service committee and I've never heard anything about construction on Lucius Road. So we need to pull that.
I cannot pull that. I cannot pull that because we have obligations and we have been in discussion with all our city leaders and county leaders on this. And I don't know why you hadn't been apprised of this whole thing, but we've been doing it for 2 years, and we have made a commitment with these.
We haven't done Lucius Road for 2 years because if you've even mentioned Lucius Road, that would set out an alarm anyway, because we made certain things on Lucius Road that we wouldn't do additional things down there to those homeowners. And Lucius Road, but okay, but I'm gonna make the motion, so just that we defer that to a full board meeting. Now, if you saying this is the urgency with the politicians, so we need to poll politicians. I've never even heard that in my community.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
I second that motion.
Ms. Mood,
I have some questions also, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, talking about on Lucius Road, you know we hadn't had any.
Mr. Chair.
okay, Ms. Mood. Well, Ms. Mood, I'm getting to the items, and we'll get to I got to get to the point where I get to consent agenda move, and then I got to make a motion on which items I want to entertain for the rest of this meeting. All right, so Ms. Moody, you had a question?
I was just going to say that the Lucius Road Super Stop has been on the Service Committee agenda.
Okay, very good. All right, all right, then that gets us to a point where I can make a motion.
I'll say I've never seen it, and I've never discussed it, and I've never missed a service committee meeting.
Okay, very good. All right, so
Mr. Chair,
I move to,
Mr. Chair, Robert Morris,
Yes.
can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Mr. Chair, we've gone over the Lucius Road briefly. And if I can recall, Mr. Andor told us we were only gonna have lights there and buses were gonna park. Now I'm hearing something different that you've not shared with the board. So the city,
okay,
so politicians and others are involved, but we have not discussed this.
What?
no, sir, that's not correct, sir, because what we're running up against is the buses that are lining up and making hard for businesses to be accessed, and that's the reason for having this additional stop. Mr. Andor, would you like to expand on that, please?
Yes,
Before
Mr. Chairman,
Andor-
members of the board.
but-
We've discussed this at the Intermodal Ad Hoc Committee, the Service Committee, and the Board of Directors at the
Mr. Chair.
June 5th, 2020 meeting, authorized staff to release information for bids to construct the Lucius Road Super Stop. So we've consistently worked with City of Columbia staff on permitting and doing all the necessary steps to make sure that we can build a bus stop there. We have secured the support from all the elected officials that represent the area, as well as had discussions with the neighborhood community, and there's no impediments for implementing this project. We have permits in hand, and this is the next step towards authorizing construction. And
What does
Mr. Chair.
the super stop include?
the Super Stop will include 15 bays for buses to pick up and drop off passengers, lighting, security cameras, and a bus training area for the contractor to use to train their employees.
Mr. Byrd, do you have any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The only problem the city manager had with buses at the transit center was one of the 300 changes we've made since Mr. Andor has been ED was lining up all the buses hitting the transit center all at one time. So you had buses on Sumter, Laura, and all at the same time. Prior to that, buses will only be there. We had different bus schedules. Now, some of these meetings are after meetings that don't include all the members. So what do we have to do to stop that from happening? Hire an attorney? Because I've wasted quite a few years, and to say I heard something at a service meeting that I didn't hear is questioning my integrity.
Okay, very good. All right, that point is noted. Action I moved to adopt the consent agenda with the exception of item C. Is there a second?
Item B.
Item B. I'm sorry, item B. Is there a
Second.
second?
I second.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I still want to know the name of those politicians who are forcing us to move from Laura and Sumter Street. Laura and Main.
Okay, we'll give, that point is noted. We'll get information.
We have a table full of lawyers. We ought to be able to get that today before we leave. We got
Okay, well,
lawyers
well,
on.
okay, sir. All right, I'm calling a vote on the consent agenda. Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio, Ms. Dickerson, Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason,
Yes. Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Same.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, very good. That goes to item number 6. We're going to defer A and move towards item B. Mr. Smith and Mr. Ando.
So item 5B was a matter that came before the Finance Committee, and it has to do with the resumption of fare collection. This has sort of been a standing agenda item for a while at both the Finance Committee and the board. Finance Committee was sort of waiting on, and I'll let John say more, we were waiting on the installation of the guards in the plexiglass guards in the buses to protect drivers. So that's substantially been completed with the exception of 1 or 2 buses, I think. So the Finance Committee's recommendation was to resume fare collection with an effective date of April 12th. John, is there anything that I've missed there?
And that also includes the addition of the new soda cap connector fare and the fare for children ages 6 to 18 years old.
Just for, again, to clarify, the reason I wanted to pull that out of the consent calendar is because what John just said and what I said about the April 12th was not in the documentation of our board packet. So I wanted to make sure the board was aware of all the details before voting on this.
I have a question.
Okay, please.
This Carolyn Delete, I have a question. Okay, are we
Please.
gonna go up on the,
Ms.
What was your
Gleason,
question?
yes. Are they gonna go up on the fare?
No, the fare remains the same. The only addition is the soda cap connector fare of $1 for basic, 50 cents for discount, and that would be the same. And then children 6 to 18 would pay $1.
Thank you,
Otherwise, all other fares remain the same.
thank you.
Any other discussion or questions?
Did you need a
Ms.
second
Reed?
to that motion, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
please,
I second.
please. Okay, very good. Ms. Reed, will you call the roll?
yes, sir. Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio, Ms. Dickerson, Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason,
Yes,
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Huggins,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the motion carries.
Okay, very good. It goes to, next item is Intermodal Committee, Mr. Smith, budget.
Let's see. So, John, I'll defer to you on this, on discussion of this matter, in part because the Finance Committee didn't have a specific recommendation. We wanted the board's input. So, John, can you introduce this topic?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if we can't get a recommendation and from the Finance Committee that has studied this, we should defer this. Because all of this can't be coming from the ED, which you seem to want everything to come from the ED. You know, I'm hearing names, even contractors that shouldn't be doing contracts with us so soon. So anything with funding should come from our finance, and service should come from our service. Or either we don't need the committees.
So if I may just say, the concern was less about the dollar amount and more about the process. And so I think that the resolution was precisely to bring it to the board today. So the board, I think, has the information to take action. It's just that the finance committee wanted to make sure that that process was respected.
Dr. Morris, would you like to add to that?
Yes, the finance committee didn't have a problem with it, but as we do in some committees, when we want the full board to have some input, we'll sometime refer it back to the board. But I don't think the finance committee had a problem with it being approved.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any more discussion? Can you form a motion, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so I make a motion that we adopt the remaining budget amendments as proposed by staff, and they relate to, they're identified in the memo on page 100 of the board packet, and they include, preliminary engineering, surveying, environmental, grant writing assistance, and lobbying assistance and travel related to the work of the intermodal committee.
Very good. Any more discussion? Okay,
I'll second that motion.
okay, thank you, Ms. Mood. Any other discussion? Okay, Ms. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Ms. Tracio? Ms. Dickerson? Mr. Burgess?
No.
Ms. Gleason?
Yes.
Representative Howard?
Same.
Chairman Huggins?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
No.
Ms. Mood?
Yes.
Dr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Very good. Next item is award contract for construction of Lucius Road. Mr. Ando, would you like to expound on that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Page 128 of your packet. We held a bid opening on Friday, March 12th to select a vendor to construct the Lucius Road Superstop. And the vendor that is being recommended by our engineer is Cherokee Inc. And as a result, the cost of this project would be approximately $1,565,760 with electrical and cameras. And this is significantly under the engineer's estimate for the project. Upon board's approval, they will commence construction immediately since we do have the permits available, with the goal of having the Superstop and bus trading facility completed by August to allow for the use of that Superstop. All the parties that we've worked with, including the City of Columbia, have been involved and are supportive of this project. The elected officials that we worked with the help of our lobbyists, Bob Coble and Rick Silver, our public relations consultant, include Councilmember Paul Livingston, Senator John Scott, Representative Todd Rutherford, and Councilmember Sam Davis. We've also presented this project to the Columbia City Council twice and did not receive any comments from them in relation to this. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, sir.
Please.
John, who do we have in-house project management for this? It's a pretty wide delta there between bid we're going with and the high bid.
We contract with an engineering firm, which is Brownstone Design and Architecture, and they're the ones that will be managing this project from start to finish. And they've managed other capital projects in the past, including building this facility.
Great, thanks, John.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just point out to the board that when you look back in your packet that we'll be talking about at the next meeting about reimagining the Comet, there is a section that speaks to the function of the pulsing that Mr. Fergus referred to, and it helped me to understand why we do that and whether there's a benefit and when that's useful. So I would just refer that to the board for you to look at that section before we have our discussion next month.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chair,
Is there a motion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Andor. Mr. Andor, are you saying this super stop is going to replace the Lawrence Street Center, and that's going to be the only stop?
No, Laurel and Sumter will still exist as a bus stop. However, buses will no longer lay over there. Buses will lay over at the super stop instead, which is off street.
Any other questions?
yeah, I have a question. If the board members don't have an understanding of what's being done, I've heard 4 politicians named, and I will be checking with all of them on this thing, and I've never seen it before.
Okay, any other discussion? Can I get a motion on this item, please?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any other further discussion? Okay, Ms. Reed, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, who made the first motion?
I moved.
It's moved.
Moved.
Okay, thank you. And it was seconded by Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I believe so.
Correct.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
somebody else
thank
spoke.
you.
Yep.
I'll call the roll. Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Ms. Racio? Ms. Dickerson? Mr. Fergus?
No,
Ms. Bleaton?
No.
Representative Howard?
Here.
Chairman Huggins?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson? Mr.
Yes.
Lawson? Thank you. Ms. Moon?
Yes.
Dr. Morris?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. All right, I have another motion that I must come up with at this time. My motion is I move that all other items not addressed today are deferred until the April board meeting. Is there a second on that motion, please? Second from Mr. Howard. Any other discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I think I admitted to you some time ago about the ED's evaluation. I think you need to probably have Mr. The Champ pull that out, you review it, and determine how we're gonna move forward.
Okay, very good. Point noted, sir. Point noted. All right, so any other discussion? Ms. Reed, will you call the roll?
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Ms. Racio? Ms. Dickerson? Mr. Fergus?
no,
Ms. Gleason?
No.
Representative Howard?
Yes.
Chairman Huggins?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Moon?
Yes.
Dr. Morris?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Is there a
I
second?
second it. I second
Okay,
it.
any discussion? All in favor, aye. All in favor,
Aye.
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 Thank you. Have a great afternoon.